Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. We're currently on day 14 of Ukraine's special military operation to liberate the people of Kursk. And according to President Zelensky, the Ukrainian forces now control 92 Russian settlements in the Kursk Oblast, totaling 1,250 square kilometers of Russian territory. So let's start with the map update on deepstatemap.live. Just remember, this is always going to be about 2 or 3 days outdated. But if we go back in time, something you should pay attention to is, on the 17th, this sliver of land went into the gray zone. The next day, it was taken by Ukrainian forces, and this land is Russian territory, but on the wrong side of the river. So the region that everyone is paying attention to in the short term is this area right here. There are still Russian forces in this area, and they've got Ukrainians to the west, Ukrainians to the east, Ukrainians to the south, and a river behind them. So this was the most obvious military maneuver in the world. Ukraine takes down the third river bridge, cutting off Russian forces. The all-weather span across the Sim River was the last road out of a growing Kyiv-controlled salient in the Kursk region. So these were the 3 bridges, and in my update video from 3 days ago, the first was already down, the second had already been struck, but according to Russian military bloggers, all 3 bridges are down. For all the Russian forces and Russian civilians still in this region, they're surrounded and cut off. So what you should know is, there's no hurry. There's no hurry to take this territory. Russia is going to lose it eventually. And in fact, the longer Ukrainians wait to go into this area, the more likely they'll get Russian forces to surrender. If the Russian forces go 2 weeks without food, water, and ammunition, I think they will be more likely to surrender when they know they're surrounded. Concerning these bridges, I'll link the videos down below. Ukraine released a drone video showing the destruction of the second bridge. And the third bridge, last time I checked, is still capable of being crossed on foot or maybe a small car, but Russia can't get any trucks or tanks across this bridge. This is actually good. If Russian civilians want to evacuate this area, they can still do so on foot. But other than that, they're going to need a boat. Everyone's going to need a boat if they want to cross this river now. Or a pontoon bridge. But putting up a pontoon bridge in this area is basically suicide. Ukraine's going to spot it within a couple hours and then call in an artillery strike. So Russia at least 2 times has attempted to construct a pontoon bridge, but they don't last very long. So Ukraine has cut off almost the entirety of the Glushkovo district in Kursk. That is what this region is called. There's a village right here called Glushkovo, and this region is about an additional 600 square kilometers. And once again, there's no rush to take this territory. It's cut off, it's surrounded, and any remaining Russian forces can either retreat or surrender. But Ukraine is taking all this territory within the next couple weeks. Zelensky says the Kursk operation's goal is a buffer zone on Russian territory. So it might actually help to look at the map with the Russian defense lines drawn in. Russians constructed trenches and defense lines right on the border, but then also about 5 kilometers deep. So when Ukraine successfully got through both lines near Suja, they just went around. And the Russians in these trenches now have Ukrainians in front and behind and to the side. So Ukraine is going to continue sweeping through this trench line, convincing Russians to surrender, but if they don't, they'll be eliminated. And thank you very much, Russia. You just gave Ukraine 2 additional defense lines that they can now man these trenches. They're going to take all of these positions. So how far into Russian territory will Ukrainian forces go? And just looking at the map, I don't think Ukraine is going to go much deeper. If we want to say what was the purpose of this operation, to create a buffer zone about 20 kilometers deep into Russian territory. They can just keep expanding sideways along their own border. They will always have the advantage if they do this. But they don't need to go any deeper to inflict massive losses on the Russians. This very important highway going west-east, this is the E38 highway between Relast and Lvov. Russian military bloggers are already calling this an FPV kill zone. So even from the territory that Ukraine currently has, they can launch drones, and they can patrol this highway. Anything looking like a military truck or a military convoy, it's getting slammed right now. Russia can no longer use this very important highway for their logistics lines. Here's an interesting statement from President Zelensky. The Russian border area opposite our Sumy region has been mostly cleared of the Russian military presence. A few months ago, many people around the world would have said that this was impossible, and it crossed Russia's strictest red line. That is why no one knew about our preparations. This was reported in Western media, but President Zelensky just confirmed it. Western allies were deliberately left in the dark about the Kursk incursion plans. General Syrskyi considered various scenarios for launching an offensive against the Russian defense lines' most vulnerable areas before deciding on Kursk. I support this. If Ukraine wants to make military plans, they don't need to tell anyone. The last time they shared military plans with the United States, a 19-year-old in the Massachusetts Air National Guard leaked all the intelligence on a gaming server. This is Ukraine's war. They should definitely consult Western partners. But when it comes to sensitive military operations, there are spies and leakers everywhere. Ukraine should be playing their cards close to their chest. So Zelensky gave a pretty interesting speech 2 days ago. I do want to read a little bit of this. Here's his tone after Ukraine's successful operations in the Kursk region. We are now witnessing a significant ideological shift, namely the whole naive, illusory concept of so-called red lines regarding Russia, which dominated the assessment of the war by some partners. It has crumbled these days somewhere near Suja, when our Ukrainian defenders of life act just like this, strongly, bravely, and when an operation is really well prepared. Putin has no options left, and now the world sees that it is true, that it really works, not only in the temporarily occupied territory of our state, but also in the territory of Russia itself. The world sees that everything in this war depends solely on courage, ours, and our partners, on courageous decisions for Ukraine, on courage in supporting Ukraine, and on courageous steps, and not only our steps. It is important that our partners are in sync with us in their determination, and then Russia will have no choice but to make a just peace. More than likely, this war will end with some kind of negotiation. I don't see Ukrainian tanks going to Moscow and seizing the Kremlin. So somebody at some point is going to have to talk to somebody to make this all end. And Zelensky is correct. If you want this war to end faster, give the Ukrainians all the military support they need. They have the troops, they have the heroes, they have the courage. Russia's army is made up of slaves, and they can be beaten if they're just given the tools and resources needed to win. So let's be fair and balanced. I showed you this speech from President Zelensky. I want to share this from a Russian man who has a message to the Russian forces currently fleeing in Kursk. He's not too happy. I want to address the male population of Kursk. Are you effing totally confused over there? Where are you escaping to, my dears? What will happen if all our men will go in reverse gear and leave the cities that will be attacked, etc.? What are you doing? You can't use a weapon? Well, then take an effing shovel and dig trenches for the guys. I don't know, distribute food or something. Where are you going? Give your cars to the guys, who are now going to lay down their lives to liberate Kursk. At least give them civilian cars so they can change positions in them. One more thing. I'm looking at videos of you leaving. Are you effing nuts? Now in St. Petersburg, the whole community of veterans is nervous and thinking about how they can take up weapons and go, and how to get authorization for that. Just stop. There's so many things about this clip you should know. The first one is, this guy is a veteran, but he's not currently serving in the military, and he looks able-bodied enough. So if he wanted to rejoin the military and go to the SMO zone, he could have done it by now. This man is calling other Russian men cowards for fleeing their home region when he's not willing to go either. So this clip went viral online and his identity was eventually established, and it turns out he's the director of a granite shop in St. Petersburg that makes tombstones. The shop also provides services for the burial of soldiers killed in Ukraine. So this guy makes money every time a Russian soldier dies. And he's on camera telling Russian soldiers to go back to the war zone. Kremlin State TV is a mess. These clips are just nonsensical at this point. They never really made sense in the past, but at least there was this coherent narrative. The Russians do not know how to talk about Kursk. Vladimir Solovyov urges Russians to be quiet about what's happening in Kursk. But of course, they're going to lie and make stuff up and try and scare their own people. Let me read for you this clip. The main thing to see is how much they are cosplaying, sorry for this term, their Nazi predecessors. Well, it's simply astonishing. They rushed in, and what are they doing? They are kidnapping civilians into slavery. They're robbing, looting, violence, and kidnapping civilians into slavery. So this is what Kremlin State TV is telling their own people, that Ukrainian soldiers are robbing, looting, committing violence, and forcing Russian civilians into slavery. We do have evidence of soldiers looting in the Kursk region, and it's being done by Russian soldiers. Chechens loot mobile phone store in the Kursk region. Chechen militants looted a cell phone store from a village in Kursk, smashing display cases and taking equipment ahead of Ukraine's advancing forces. There is a video online, I'll link it down below. You can see these Chechen soldiers going through the store and trying to bust down this door, because I'm guessing there's more inventory in the back of this shop. So I have real evidence. They don't present anything on Kremlin State TV. They don't have any video clips of Ukrainian soldiers abusing Russian civilians in Kursk. But I can show you dozens of clips of Ukrainian soldiers doing the best they can to help the people of Russia, to help these people who have never been well off in their life, who have never been treated fairly or well by their government. So I'm going to share a couple clips. The first one is Ukrainian defenders delivering food to this woman.
Тушенки.
Поделитесь. Я поделюсь со собой.
Да, чтобы мы всем не развозили, просто отдайте там, кому надо. Нет, это все вам.
Это все вам. Поделитесь. Вы что-то на улице знаете, кто и что не собирает.
Спасибо большое. Сейчас я бабу Валю позову, чтобы это сделать.
Возьмете.
Подождите, хлопчики, подождите, мои родные. Ой, Господи. Ой, дай Бог вас здоровья. Хай вас Боженька береже.
Да, все нормально. Да, все хорошо, успокойтесь. Все нормально.
That is a Russian mother hugging Ukrainian soldiers, grateful for receiving canned meat. The people of this region also need fresh drinking water, so trucks have to come in to deliver water. We have the filling up points, and you get to see Ukrainian troops interacting with the local civilians.
Нашел? Давай. Как тебя зовут? Как тебя зовут? Нет. Понятно. Да ничего страшного, это ж.
Нужно сказать, Данечка. Спасибо.
На здоровье.
That's a Ukrainian defender giving, I think, stationery and maybe chocolates to a Russian child. And this Russian child doesn't look like he's in great shape. Ukraine didn't do this, he just grew up in Russia. Additionally, when Russian civilians fled the area, they left behind their pets, their animals. Ukrainian defenders have been finding lots of dogs chained up with no food and water. So they're doing their best to care for these dogs who have been chained up.
Не вырос. Все, там же пара. Валера, ну на джаму на это.
These dogs were abandoned by their owners. They didn't have food and water for days, and they're pretty excited to get some chicken feeds. Here's an interesting clip from a Ukrainian journalist who went into the local military commissar's office, and he found documents of Russian citizens who are avoiding conscription or mobilization. This office has files on locals who either fled the area or if they've gone into hiding. So this Ukrainian journalist, upon finding these documents, decided to protect these 110 Russian people from this region by burning all their documents. He filmed the video, I'll link it down below, and set fire to the paperwork of the Russians who have been avoiding the military, avoiding this war. If you want to see trench videos, there's plenty of those as well. I'll link this one down below. This is 2 minutes of Ukrainian Special Forces clearing trenches full of conscripts, the ones who choose not to surrender. Let's now flip our attention to the other side of the military map. Ukraine starts mandatory evacuation of children from Pokrovsk, as Russian troops are only 12 kilometers from the town. Pokrovsk residents have 2 weeks to evacuate as Russian forces advance. This is according to authorities. So the one axis that the Russians are all in on at the moment is trying to reach this town of Pokrovsk. You can see because it's at this Y intersection of these two highways, Russia is feeling confident that if they can take this city, all of the smaller villages and fields to the left and to the right will fill in for them. Ukraine will be forced to pull back if they can just reach these highways. So this is concerning because when you get out the ruler, if they were to set up an artillery unit, for example, here, 20 kilometers. We could even move this a little bit closer. Pokrovsk is now within artillery range, and this means that every day the Russians are just going to start indiscriminately firing on every single building. They're going to turn this city into what they did to Mariupol and Avdiivka and Bakhmut. And this is a pretty decent-sized city in Donetsk. Pre-war population, 61,000. To put this in perspective, Bakhmut was 73,000. I think Avdiivka was smaller, half the size at around 30. But to take one of these towns, Russia's just going to do what they've always done. Destroy every single building, and then send meat wave after meat wave of people you don't really care about to expose Ukrainian defensive positions, call in, glide bomb attacks. This is going to be the battle for the next 6 months. Russia, for some reason, thinks this is the most important key to this region, and they're going to keep pushing. And if there are any civilians still in this area, they need to evacuate. Secret peace talks torpedoed by Ukraine's incursion into Kursk. According to the Washington Post, Moscow has pulled out of indirect negotiations brokered by Qatar that would have been held in Doha later this month because of Kyiv's cross-border action. So there was a tell that something was happening. With the release of these Russian dissidents and these US citizens, Russia is signaling to the West they want to talk. They want a deal. They want a ceasefire. I don't think they have altruistic objectives. I think they just want to freeze in the conflict and then they're going to start it back up again in 2, 4, or 6 years. But there were talks between Ukrainians and Russians, potentially in Qatar, and with Ukraine's invasion of Russia, they don't want to do it now. Ukrainian drones spark a fuel fire in southern Russia. Ukrainians hit an oil storage facility in Russia's southern Rostov region. So that was the article from day one. Fuel depot fire in Russia's Rostov region expands on the second day after a Ukrainian drone attack. That was day 2. Russian firefighters struggle for third day to contain a blaze at an oil depot after a Kyiv drone attack. So I'll link the videos down below, but that looks like the largest oil depot fire I've ever seen. The video is insane, and I'm sure even from this distance, people are feeling the heat. And we do have the satellite images from the first day or so. Here is the city that this oil depot was located to down here, and that's what the satellite showed on the second day. We can zoom in and you can see how many containers were full of oil at the time. And they're gone. They're all gone. This has been burning for 3 days. Dozens of Russian firefighters were injured battling this blaze after this drone attack on an oil facility. We have a video taken by the firefighters. I'll link this down below. They can't even get close to it. To try and fight this fire, the heat is so intense. The best way probably to fight this fire would be with helicopters, but perhaps they don't have any spare helicopters capable of helping to put out this fire. So we'll see on day 4 if all the fuel finally burns off, but I mean, this is billions of dollars in damage, and this is crippling Russia's energy industry. More bad news, another Russian T-90 tank was captured in Kursk. Ukraine released the video showing that this is at least the second T-90 tank they've taken captive. They're going to haul it back to Ukraine, repurpose it, and then reassign it to a Ukrainian unit. Ukrainian lawmakers vote to ban the Moscow-linked Orthodox Church. The measure banning a church considered in Ukraine to be aligned with Putin's Russian world needs to be signed into law, but it's a done deal. So on social media from Russian propagandists, you're going to hear how Christianity was just banned in Ukraine. And no, it's the Russian Orthodox Church, which is controlled by the FSB, and there's countless clips of Russian Orthodox Church priests calling for genocide, throwing holy water on Russian tanks. Here's the truth about religious affiliation in Ukraine. Ukraine is one of the most Christian countries in Europe, and only 4% of the population identified as being members of the Russian Eastern Orthodox Church. All of these churches are going to have to close. All of their priests, who are all FSB agents, they're going to have to leave. But this isn't the banning of Christianity. I argue there's nothing Christian about the Russian Eastern Orthodox Church and their support for genocide, their support for Putin and war. I'll link this clip down below. I did share this when it was published in December of last year. This is a Ukrainian pastor speaking in English, talking directly to Western audiences, that Christianity is being threatened in Ukraine by Russia. Russia is systematically destroying Ukrainian churches, Protestant churches, Catholic churches, because the only church that is allowed, that they want to exist in their occupied territories, is the Russian Eastern Orthodox Church, because they control it. This clip is almost 3 minutes. It's incredibly powerful. If anyone gets into an argument with you about Ukraine is anti-Christian, show them this clip. I'll link it down below. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Lithuania prepares to extend temporary protection for Ukrainians for another year. Thank you so much to the people of Lithuania. Denmark announced a $115 military aid package. Thank you so much to the people of Denmark. Germany delivered a new military aid package, including an additional Iris-T air defense system. Thank you so much to the people of Germany. Ukraine receives first batch of Japanese demining machines. More to come. 22 of these demining machines will be donated in total. Thank you so much to the amazing people of Japan. All right, the big news for the week here on the channel with the community. Yesterday, I put out a launch video for our next fundraiser. Back for my birthday in May, our YouTube community raised $1,191,780 in support of Ukraine. And I think we can do this again this week. I think we can easily hit the 1 million mark in support of Ukraine. For more detailed explanation, watch my video from yesterday. I'll link it down below. But I want to highlight how few people it actually takes to get to an amazing number like 1 million. There were 15,667 individual donations. That's it. If my videos average 300,000 views, only 5% of my audience who regularly watches me participated in the last fundraiser. So for anyone on a fixed income, if your budget is tight, if you have people you're caring for or you're donating in other ways, don't worry about it. I appreciate you guys. You still can support this fundraiser by giving this video a like or a positive comment down below. But for everyone else on the fence, think about $5. Think about donating $5 and how good that'll make you feel whenever you see one of these updates of a bro truck or a bromobile on the roads in Ukraine. So this campaign, I'm calling 1,000 Days of War. We're currently, I think, on day 910, but by the time all these trucks and drones get to Ukraine, it'll be probably November. And November 20th will be the 1,000th day of this war. That's why I titled it this way. The goal with 1 million is 30 trucks for 30 different frontline Ukrainian units, and then as many drones as we can buy. Last time we bought more than 500. So I'm going to share with you another video. This is the 5th Separate Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard. They're one of the units that will be receiving a truck, and this is the message they have for our channel.
Ми оператори дронів 5-ї Слобожанської бригади Національної гвардії України. Наші підрозділи зараз знаходяться на Харківському та Донецькому напрямку. Тому звертаємося до благодійного фонду 69 Help, спільноти НАФО та JakeBroeYT за допомогою у придбанні пасажирського буса для нашого підрозділу. Завдяки вашій підтримці ми наближаємо нашу спільну перемогу. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
So in total, in the first day, we've already fundraised $318,000. So these guys, 100% are going to get a truck or a passenger bus, along with 29 other Ukrainian units. It's all about you guys and your incredible generosity and your continued engagement and support for Ukraine. I don't need motivation to keep going when you guys continue to support Ukraine and watch my videos. All right, that's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.